Ta-da! I didn't have the camera on. Hello, everyone. It is I, Tinisha Brugnone, with the continuation of Pimpette Chronicles, a modern Black woman's guide to dating safely and navigating these mean streets. I was supposed to do this like literally a week ago. I said I was going to come back the day after, but I didn't. Sorry. I got preoccupied and I've been not feeling well. So I am trying to get back into the swing of things. And as you can see, I got my little Idlewild International Film Festival shirt on today. I am very casual. I just got back from running some errands. Actually had the day off from work, from the office job, from my side gig. Um, So yeah, again, I got to get in here and start adjusting myself once I get on the camera. So, yes, how is everyone? I hope you are doing great. It was such a beautiful day in the neighborhood today. So, I think we got up to 85 degrees in October. It's like October 21st, 2024, as I am sitting here in front of you. And it is a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day in Detroit. I just went to one of my favorite little bar and grills. I guess I don't know if it's a bar and grill, but it's just like a little restaurant. It's called The Waves. It's in St. Clair Shores, and they have the best buffalo wings, and I love their wings. And I just had a little cocktail and some wings and some fries, and just chilled out for about an hour or so. And then I came home. So yeah. So let's get started. So I believe that we ended. We actually started chapter 5 according to my bookmark. I hope this is correct because I'm not going to go back and check. But I am continuing with gaining and recognizing your power, which is on page 140 of my mailman of the Pimpette Chronicles guide. So let's go ahead and get started. In order to balance out the power dynamics and reduce dating fatigue within our communities, you may need to reduce your visibility and access from potential mates. This means not going out with men you know you are not attracted to or who you feel do not meet your basic standards or requirements. By being very careful who you spend your time with, you are limiting the poor quality experiences that can be had with a man you know you did not want in the first place. I believe some of the ways to gain power are simply by making yourself more valuable, unique, and not so easy to access. Men know that dateable women are abundant in their cities and on dating apps, but there is not a myriad of compatible matches. A date with a beautiful Black woman is usually just a swipe away. But what qualities, talents, and skills set you apart? My theory is that by making yourself the prize from inception, you immediately hold the majority of the cards. This process is for those who are serious about dating and who are dating with intention. This is not for those who this is not for those willing to go out with anyone without a plan to see where it goes. As we continue in this chapter, remember that this game plan is for austere players only. First, before meeting with your potential mate, he should put in some work just to have the luxury of a conversation or date with you. You are not one of the options on the fast food menu, also known as a dating app. You are not willing to put yourself in an apple barrel for any man who thinks you are attracted to Bob for. You immediately become a goal, whether it be short term or long term. You are telling the male that you are worth this extra step, and he has to work to get your attention. Men love a challenge, and as I have mentioned before, men value the things they have to work for the most. My personal way of doing this was by creating a custom compatibility form. Visit the website. Actually, don't visit the website right now because it's not up. Let's do that again. My personal way of doing this was by creating a custom compatibility form that suitors had to fill out before talking to me. Since I am a busy, secure woman who enjoys her alone time and does not mind being single, you, the man, must first show me that you are worth me even giving you the time of day. Being single for me has never equated to being lonely. Since men love to jump into our inboxes via social media, when they asked me if I was single, I simply responded yes and told them that I was accepting applications. They immediately think I am joking, and that is when I sent out the custom form I created, which includes a series of questions that help determine compatibility. Most men are eager to fill out this because they are naturally competitive, and very few men have refused thus far. I'm trying to think. maybe 2 guys didn't want to fill it out, and they were 2 guys that I would not even give the time of day anyway, so didn't really matter. When refused, this told me they were most likely the type who would feel that they were the prize and that I would compete with other women for their attention. The refusal meant, how dare I, a woman, ask him to prove to me that he is worthy of my attention. They immediately let me know they were aware and secure with the assertion that the woman to man ratio was in their favor and I should be working to make him want me. I have zero interest in competing for something I probably don't even want. I only have time to get to know men who meet my very basic requirements. The first and most important requirement is his ability to show me that he wants to get to know Tinisha, not that he is just looking for any woman to pass the time with. Let me tell you something. Men nowadays will waste your time if you let them. Men know what type of woman they want. They know what type of woman that they see long term, and they know what type of woman they see short term. So to me, if a man is not putting in effort to get to know me, then I take that as I'm somebody he just probably want to just, kick it with. Let's just say kick it with, for just being nice. But yeah, I don't feel that type of man sees any value in me. And it's not my job to try to prove my value to him. It's his job to prove to me that I am, or that he is worthy of my time. Let's get it right. So yeah, I don't do that jumping through hoops and all that other bullshit. It's not my thing. Excuse me. So back to the form. This form was to be completed by him and then assessed by me, all before I would even agree to have a real conversation with him. It is then scored with the max points being 200 and the minimum being 150 points to be eligible to have a conversation with me. Occasionally, some men would ask me to fill out one in return. I would simply call their bluff and tell them to send me a custom form designed by them, and I would complete it. This is just to make them feel that they have a little bit of power in the situation. To date, none of them have sent me a damn thing. Not one man has taken the time to compose a custom form of what their requirements are in a mate and send it to me after they tried to approach me. Make it make sense. I declined to have a conversation first because I have found that many of the conversations, whether good or bad, usually lead to nowhere. In the past, men I met virtually and talked to from dating sites were often lonely and needed a therapist as opposed to a mate. At some point during the dating app stage in my life, I started to feel like I should charge for my online counseling services. Like, who the fuck am I, Dr. Phil? After those conversations, the players would realize that getting to me was going to require some work. And since most men are used to some modern women being easy and in a hurry to run off on a date with them, while men are typically lazy, these days, very few would actively pursue me, but most wanted to remain connected via social media. I still often have great conversations on Facebook with the men I never dated from the dating apps. Hey, y'all. Now, I know a pre-date application that I prefer to call a compatibility form may seem unconventional, but I refuse to allow myself to be treated like an option in all my grace and wisdom. Since I have placed myself in a position of power, I can take care of myself completely. I am free to be as picky and as selective as I desire. Know your own value and then decide what is advantageous for you. Maybe you want a softer approach that includes a conversation and then easing in a form. Perhaps you don't want to use this method at all. I'm only sharing what has worked for me thus far, and there is no shortage of would-be suitors in my life. That still remains true. And actually, as of now, I have ventured into the dating apps again. It's been like 2 years since I've really been on a dating app. No, actually, I did it in January for like a couple of days, dated a guy for some months, and then that didn't go anywhere. And then I took some time off, and now I'm on the dating apps again. So yeah, we'll get into that later in book 2. Maybe you want a softer approach that includes a conversation, then ease in the form. Perhaps you don't want to use this method at all. I'm only sharing what has worked for me thus far, and there is no shortage of would-be suitors in my life. I do quite well. Since men usually approach women, my thought is, why should we have to jump through hoops to prove to him we are worthy? If you are to approach the man, then you are putting yourself in a position of having to prove your worthiness. I am not saying that it may not work sometimes, but I am not about that life. To further explain how the form works, We would only move to the conversation stage if the man scored over 150 points. This is where you actually pick up the phone and talk to the person. I know this may sound foreign to some younger folk, but back in my day, we wanted to hear how a fella sounded before we agreed to meet up with them. It has been my experience that the best way to miscommunicate these days is via text message. Way to go, technology. So now that I've already so now that I already know that he most likely matches on paper and meets my most basic requirements, which include sexual ones, let's see if he can hold his own on the phone. If the conversation goes well, you move forward with the first date or meeting. It could be something as simple as having coffee in the afternoon, or if you both are really feeling each other, you can sit down for a meal. From here, the rest is up to you, man. Dear fellas, if the woman has agreed to meet you in person, she is saying that you are interesting enough to consider having sex with. On that first date, you can either talk yourself out of her drawers or move a step closer to getting into them. The choice is yours. So, on the coffee date tip, because I'm older, I don't do coffee dates. I really didn't do them when I wrote this. I just thought that it was an option, like some people do, and I didn't want to seem like a snob. I cannot think of the last time I ever really went on a coffee date. I think once in the last 4 or 5 years. And yeah, and that was a waste of time. So I don't even do coffee dates because if you can't afford a meal to sit down and have a real conversation, then we probably not compatible anyway. And that's okay because there's somebody else who loves coffee and will sit there and drink bean juice with you and yeah, get all dressed up and makeup. It takes hours, all that shit just for coffee. I'm good though. Okay, to continue. The first date is what I consider the most important because this is when your energy meets his energy. Your souls may like each other or be in complete conflict. Sometimes you just don't move well together. Maybe it's the way he walks or the way he chooses food. Regardless of the reason, the first date or at most the second will inevitably tell you whether or not you want to date this person. If they come off as someone you don't want to spend your time with, you simply do not move forward. It does not take more than a couple of dates to see if you wish to be pursued or not. I will only go on one date, and if it goes well, he is in the running. If not, I will let him know that I'm not interested. When people were asked what they do if someone asked them to fill out a custom dating form, surprisingly, the majority of men thought it was a great idea because it gave the person an indication of what they may be getting into ahead of time. They also felt it would eliminate a bunch of games or uncomfortable situations later down the line. Below are some of the responses from a survey completed when the question was raised about whether or not they would fill out a custom compatibility form. Most participants were considered to be seriously seeking a mate and were over the age of 30. I'm not going to go through all those. You can read that in the book, page 146 through 148 or 149. Out of the 22 people surveyed, 7 women said yes and 4 said no. Among the men, 9 men thought it was a great idea and only 2 said no. When further questioned, most men understood that it would, in the long run, save them money because they were less likely to be dating someone who just wanted a free meal. And they would immediately know that this woman meant business and not to waste her time. So the one guy that I did date from my compatibility form time of dating, me and him dated for 8 months, and we were pretty cool. Like we were pretty compatible on paper, but the problem with him is that he was, I don't want to say anything bad about anybody. He was used to being pursued by women and he had a lot of feminine attributes that did not gel well with me. And so I just found him to be a little too feminine. Um, and yeah, there were some other things going on that I'm not going to get into. Yeah. So yeah, we didn't go too far. And I'm cool with that. So, anyways, let's see, where are we? They understood they understood that she was most likely not looking to just date anyone and the men would feel special if chosen. And my men are special, okay? My question is, why wouldn't he? The survey also proved that most serious-minded people are tired of the merry-go-round of dating and are looking for a way to only date those they are compatible with, at least on paper. Now, next section, yeah, see that. It says, how serious are you? If you're a woman who lives in the Midwest like me, finding that quality single Black man can sometimes seem challenging. Social media makes it appear like everyone has one except you. In a virtual world so big, just exactly where should you start? Well, since you paid good money for this book, I thought it would be my duty to try and help a sister out. Below are the stats from blackdemographics.com that show the numbers of full-time working Black men in these cities per 100 Black women. This does not specify whether or not the men are single, but at least we have an idea of where we may have to consider taking a little road trip. Oh my God, I just found a typo in this book. It's like twice. I'm gonna have to look for this. Oh, wait a minute. Page 150 is printed twice. That's why. I wonder is that on all the books? I'm gonna have to look that out. So in this one, page 150 is printed twice. Okay. So we're gonna skip over the stats. Well, I'll read one. Like for instance, it's a little chart. It's kind of hard to see. Okay, that's better. And it says like in San Diego, California, there are 167 Black men per 100 Black women. The median household income is 83,454. Per capita income is 43,090. And let's see. Then we have full-time working populations in Portland, in Clarksville, rather, San Jose, Providence. So all these different cities and states, we have stats as to how many Black men and how much money they make. Okay, so looking at these cities and states, one can't help but notice that only one place, Minnesota, is in the Midwest. So basically, the Midwest is the worst place to meet Black men. I am not surprised. So Minnesota was the only place that came up under blackdemographics.com as having, I guess more men to Black women, which is interesting. So looking at these cities and states, one can't help but notice that only one place, Minnesota, is in the Midwest. Just think the first mass migration in the states for Black folks was when our great and grandparents started fleeing the South to the North to escape racism and the horrors that came along with it. Now it appears that some of us Northern women may have to do a little migrating ourselves just so that we can have a better chance at finding a mate who looks like us. This may be even more important to women of childbearing age. So because I am not of childbearing age, I don't really particularly care what color the man is. So I date all types of men these days. But this book's focus is on Black women who are seeking Black men. To date, I have only seriously dated like maybe 2 non-Black men in my life. And I'm not going to tell y'all how many men I dated, but I am off my fingers, okay, at almost 50. So when mentioning this concept of relocating to one millennial woman who is whining about being unable to find a mate, she referred to the concept of being in search of dick. This lets me know immediately that this poor, unfortunate being had never known the value of a good man. When a woman has a good man in her corner, she too can move mountains. Contrary to what some may say, a man's value is not just determined by his dick or his wallet. Say what? Having a compatible mate is invaluable. And if you need to relocate to get yours, please don't hesitate to do so. P.S. Please make sure you do it wisely and have a plan in place first. Job, housing, saved up money. Don't go running off nowhere without a plan and without any money and no security. Please don't do that. That's just stupid. Okay. When all else fails, next section of chapter 5. We almost 20 minutes in, so we're gonna keep going for now. I sometimes hear women say that men do not know how to court them anymore. My response is, who are y'all dating? Even at a time when the Black men to Black women ratio is higher than that of his female counterpart, as is in the case with most, as is in the case of all ethnic groups, according to the World Population Review. So basically, there's always going to be more men than women. That's just globally. If you are strategic and have made yourself an asset and not a liability, you can still manage to date men who are willing to take you out and treat you like a lady. So even when I date, whoever I date, they treat me well. So because I'm very selective as to who I bother going out with. So I don't have a lot of, even at my ripe old age, I don't have a lot of horror stories. And I've never had a guy ask me to pay for a date still. So when they do, if somebody ever do, I'm probably just gonna fall out like, oh my God. I'm probably just gonna fall out and die, y'all, just from the shock of it. Because when somebody asks you, Shira Seven said this. I don't, if you follow Shira Seven, or if you don't follow Shira Seven, you should. She's on YouTube. But she made a point that said that if a man asks you to pay for dinner, then you need to go back and look in the mirror because obviously he thinks you're ugly. Her words, not mine. So anyway, back to the book. There is this fear being circulated that has Black women believing that the racial disparity between the sexes is a lot worse than what it may truly be, which benefits none other than the male. My thought is, if it is true, which I cannot confirm or deny after many attempts to find a definitive answer, then make certain that you too are considered a unicorn amongst horses, which goes back to being the best version of you. As a woman, it is your duty to ensure that you are treated well in all regards. Never move in desperation, even if you are in a room full of 100 women and 10 men. What is for you will be for you. I recently spoke to an older single lady who has had her act together in every aspect of the term, and she said that the competition was rough out here. My thought again is, why would you ever want to compete with another woman? If he came to you, approached you, and asked to get to know you, then why should you have to prove yourself worthy of him, especially in comparison to another woman? For example, does that employer fill out a job application for you if you apply for the job? Absolutely not. So, in dating and in courting, it is the man who should be proving his worthiness since he is in pursuit of you. If I make myself available to him for a date, I am allowing him the opportunity to get to know me. At that stage, he may decide that he does not want the job at all, which is absolutely within his right. His task is to prove himself worthy of my time, and mine is simply to show him that what he may get for all of his efforts. On the flip side, I might learn that he does not fit my requirements, or he may find that the job is entirely too hard because it's kind of hard, dating TY. Let's just be for real about it. Some women require more work than others, and that's cool too. Stay in your own lane. The point I am making is, since women generally do not approach men, then why would women need to prove themselves worthy of a man's advances? Y'all got the game fucked up. So a dude come up to you, asks to get to know you, asks for your number, calls you, asks you to go out with him, and then somehow along the way, women start trying to prove that they're worthy of this man because they like him. Well, they start liking him. Don't do it. It is his job to prove that he's worthy of you. Okay. As mentioned many times before, because I don't want y'all to forget, the Black man has an excess of women to choose from. In all actuality, they have the freedom to date outside their race with very little pushback from the community or anyone, which is why they are twice as likely to intermarry compared to Black women. You want to hear that again? Twice as likely. So they're twice as likely to date and marry women that are not Black as opposed to Black women. For those Black women who are brave enough to do so, they are labeled as sellouts, bed wenches, coons, etc. Admittedly, at one time, I too felt that it was wrong for a Black person to date outside their race, but the more I've dated and found it ever so challenging to find a commitment-minded Black man, the more I started to change my viewpoint. I can only go by my own experiences. And there has been several or numerous experiences where the Black men that I dated thought that they were playing any mini mighty mo, and they also thought it was their prerogative to have more than one woman. I'm just going to leave it at that. I totally get the we were together on the slave ships and we have been holding each other down for 400 years thought process behind Black women exclusively being with Black men, but I became open to the possibility after seeing how slim the choices have become in my own community and statistically of finding a suitable Black male who A, is not trying to get you to jump through hoops, B, sharing him with another woman, or C, making you compete with other women, or my most favorite in most recent days, or a man that wants you to make him feel pretty. That's some weird shit. We got a lot of dudes out here want you to make them feel pretty. Get the fuck out of here. At the time, the goal was simply to put myself in a position to have more choices, and fortunately, it worked out in my favor. Even though in that relationship we grew apart, I was never treated like an option. I learned from that experience just how well a working class, middle income man could treat his woman if he wanted to. So, just to clarify, I was dating a non black man who was a working man, and he treated me very well. And that literally taught me how I wanted to be treated. And I saw that just because you're not rich, doesn't mean that your man can't treat you well. Doesn't mean that your man can't pay all the bills, because he paid all the bills and we live fairly well. And so, yeah, that taught me a lot about my own worth. It is what it is. So now I demand nothing but the same or better from anyone I choose to spend my time with. After all, who wouldn't strive to be treated as well or even greater than what they were treated like in the past? Would you willingly turn in a new car for a used one? In all stages of life, the goal should be to upgrade. So every dude that you get should be better than your last dude. If the dude you're dating is not better than your last dude, then you are doing something wrong. Hear me. You're not supposed to backtrack. You're not supposed to get something worse. You're supposed to get something better. Okay. And I'm not talking about like, those occasional flings that you might have. I'm talking about like somebody that you're seriously dating or somebody that you're in a relationship with. They need to be better than the last person. If Black women are growing tired of fishing in a small pond of eligible Black males, who could really judge them? I've been back in these dating streets for a couple of years now, 4 now, and I must say that things have drastically changed. But let's take a moment to acknowledge it is not just in the Black community. White women are having similar problems, yet the issues they have are not as complex, nor my business. If we throw mass incarceration, white supremacy, under and unemployment, self-hate, colonization, police brutality, and basically everything associated with a group of displaced people in the mix, then we can see how serious our problem is in comparison. The challenge is further complicated because we, Black women, limit ourselves to who we date based on race, ethnicity, often in spaces where the numbers are not in our favor. Let's be clear. I firmly believe in people loving and being with whomever they want, regardless of ethnic group, gender, sex, etc. And in case you weren't aware, according to the Population Reference Bureau, most Americans prefer to marry within their own race. And with Black women, that is not an exception. I honestly suspect that most Black women only choose to date outside of their race, which I believe does not exist, but that's a different conversation, as a last resort or because that is what's available to them in their community or in their surroundings. Okay. I know this to be true in my own personal experience. So the next time one looks at a single Black woman and criticizes her for dating outside of her group, please instead refer her to the next eligible Black male that you know personally has good character and his shit together. I asked a married male friend of mine once to do that, and he could not name one single friend that he felt would make a suitable life partner. He instead just shook his head and said that brothers nowadays were fucked up. True story. So we are going to stop because this is almost 30 minutes in. I don't like to go past 30 minutes. And we will pick back up maybe tomorrow, which will be October 22nd. So thank you for joining me. This is Tinisha Brugnone, and I'm reading Pimpette Chronicles, a modern Black woman's guide to dating safely and navigating these mean streets. And this book is on Amazon, also Barnes and Noble. If you want to pick up a copy, you can get it there. Other than that, you have a wonderful evening and ta-ta.